Hi there, I'm going to continue on with the notes on conditional statements. So I think the last Thursday we went over the basic syntax of a conditional statement. Um, we introduced the concept of a condition that is checked to see what course of action a program is going to take. Um, as part of those conditions are what are called the relational operators. So the relational operators are basically compare expressions for greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, and not equal to. And these are for comparison of primitive data types only. Later we'll get into how to compare object data types, but for now we're just comparing actual values, double, int, boolean, and which one? Not string, just double, int, and boolean values. Okay, so for example, if A is 3, B is 7, C is 10, and D is negative 20, then A is less than B. That's going to be evaluate to be true because 3 indeed is indeed less than 7. A less than or equal to B will also be true. A equal to B is going to be false. And this is a point that's very important. To compare for equality of primitive data types, you use two equal signs. That's different from an assignment statement where only one equal sign is used. So whenever you see two equal signs, one after the other, it means that you're doing a comparison for equality. Okay, not equal to is exclamation point equals. The exclamation point means not in general, so in Java. So not, you may see it in places aside from not equal to. So just keep that in mind. All right, A not equal to B would be true. 3 is not 7, is not equal to 7. A minus B is greater than C plus D. Now here the order of operations is the mathematical operators have greater precedence than the relational operator greater than. So what's going to happen is it's going to do A minus B and get negative 4. Check to see if that's greater than C plus D. Well, this is going to give me negative 10, so you have negative 4 greater than negative 10. That is true. Okay, B is in between A and C. All right. Yes, while that is a true statement, and that's the way you would write it mathematically, we'll see in a second that you cannot write that statement in that way, in the traditional mathematical way in Java. But we'll get to that in just a little bit. Also, A equal to B equal to C. You can't write it that way. We'll get into that, how you would write that as well. All right. So aside from just simple comparisons, most programming languages have logical operators, which mean the words and, or, and not. Okay, this allows for more sophisticated logic where more than one condition affects the outcome of a statement. Now, the rules for and, or, and not are relatively straightforward. You can think of it this way. P and Q. So when you have two things joined by an and, both items have to be true for the entire statement to be true. So if even just one of either the one or the other, or both of them, are false, the entire statement is going to be false. So here, P and Q are true. P and Q is going to be true because they're both P and Q are true. P and Q, well, one is false, one is true. For the and, that's going to result in a false statement. Same with when P is false and Q is true, that's going to result in false. And then finally, if they're both false, that will simplify to be a false value. So in the and situation, it's pretty restrictive. The only time you're going to get a true statement out of P and Q is if both P and Q are true. Both conditions must be met. In all other instances of combinations of P and Q being true and false, you're going to get false. Now P or Q, on the other hand, or is kind of the opposite of and. As long as you have at least one element true of the two that are separated by an or, the entire statement's going to be true. So the first line, I have P is true, Q is true. Well, P or Q would be true as well. In the second line, I have P is true, Q is false. Well, as long as one of them is true, the or statement is going to be true. Same with P and Q being false, or P false and Q true. And then the only time an or statement is false is going to be if both of the statements are false. And the way the and the or work is it's pretty synonymous with, or actually it is. It's exactly the way our minds work when we're working through logical statements about multiple conditions. Okay, so what are the words in Java? What are the symbols for and, or not? Well, and is two ampersands, or is two vertical symbols, and not is going to be an exclamation point. Okay, so when you're evaluating lengthy statements, you need to know the whole order of operations that includes the grouping symbols, the relational comparisons, comparators, symbols, the mathematical symbols, and the logical symbols of and, or not, and what their order of precedence is. So this is a relatively lengthy table right here. I'll tell you right now, the ones that are important to know are that parentheses are always first, and the innermost parentheses are going to be evaluated first in an expression. Then comes not, then the mathematical operators, then the relational operators, then the and symbol, and then lastly, the lowest precedence of all is the or symbol. All right, so up above, the other day we looked at if statements, and the condition would be a statement comparing values, or a statement that's either true or false. Now, you can also use a condition or a logical statement within an assignment statement itself when you're trying to assign a true or false value to something. So, for example, let's see, where was I? There I am. I could say boolean is the magic combo is equal to x is equal to 4 or z is equal to 3. So here I'm creating a boolean variable and I'm giving it a value of the result of this logical condition. Okay. Alright, so let's put it all together and see what we get if we can evaluate some of these statements. So in the following it says, what will be assigned to z after the code executes? Alright, well, let's going to go on here. First of all, the relational operators for x is equal to 4 and y is equal to 3, those are going to be evaluated. Then those are joined by ands, and that the outcome of that is assigned to the variable c. So let's see. X is equal to 4. Well, that is going to be true. Y is equal to 3. Well, is y equal to 3? Yes, that is going to be true. So we're going to have true and true. That whole thing becomes true. So true would be assigned to z. All right, the next one, we have x equals 8. So then it says z equals x percent 4 equals 3, or x is less than or equal to 56. All right, well, x percent 4 is equal to 3. That is not true. That is false. X percent 4, or x mod 4, I should say, is going to be 0. So that's going to be false. This is going to be true. False or true is going to result in true. So that entire statement is going to be true. Now, x equals 10. X is less than 5, or x is greater than 5. All right, well, x is less than 5 is a false statement. X is greater than 5 would be a true statement. So I have false or true. That's going to result in a true statement. All right. X equals 4. All right, let's see. Either x is greater than 3 and x is less than 10. So this is the way you write up above where it had shown, let's see, right here, b is in between a and c. This is actually how you would write that out in Java code. You would say, okay, let's see, where are we? Too far. X is greater than 3 and x is less than 10. That means x is in between 3 and 10. So the first one, x is greater than 3, is true. The second one is true. I have true and true. That's going to be true. Two trues with an and are true. All right, then let's see. The next one, I have p is true, q is true. All right, p or not q. So the not symbol takes precedence over the or. So let's see, I have not true, so not q is not true. That's going to be false because it negates it. So that becomes a false. P is true, so I'm going to end up with true or false. True or false is going to be true. Now, P or Q and not P. All right, so here the and takes precedence over the or. So it's going to do Q and not P first of all. So Q is true, not P is false. Okay, so true and false, that's going to be false. But now I have P or Q. Well, not P or Q. P or Q and not P. So let's see. That we decided was false. Okay. P is, let's see, it's true. So I'm going to end up with true or false. That's true. All right, we have two falses, not P or Q. Well, P or Q, when I have two falses with an or, I'm going to get a false. Not false is going to be true. Okay, not P or not Q and not and are. Well, the nots take precedence over the logical operators. So not Q is going to be false, and are. Are is true, so false and true is going to give you false, because we have a true and a false separated by an and. So that means that is going to result in false. And then not P or false. So not P is going to be false because P is true. So I have false or false. That always gives me false. And then the last one, All right, so we're going to do what's in the parentheses. So inside the parentheses, in the innermost parentheses, we have P or Q. So both P and Q are true. So this is going to become true. And then not true is going to be false because not takes precedence over and. So now I'm up to this. And not R. So false and, well, R is false. So I end up with false and true. So false and true, that's going to give me a false value. All right, then the last thing are one special set of kind of logical statements, and those are De Morgan's laws. So De Morgan's laws can be thought of as what happens sort of when it's almost as if you're distributing the not across an and statement or an or statement. And what happens is the not symbol gets distributed. The logical operator, if it's an or, it becomes an and. If it's an and, it becomes an or. And that's the way it goes. So logically, not P or Q is the same as not P and not Q. And then vice versa is the same too. Not P and Q is logically the same as not P or not Q. All right, so I have a little homework assignment. Hopefully some of you will get this in time and watch this video. For Monday, tomorrow, I'd like you to do the following. In practice it, I want you to do self-check 4.1, 2, and 3. And then I want you to read this code and list out what, list what's going to be printed when all of this code executes. And you can say it's going to execute all at once. So we're going to, here in the main method, we're just going to go, it's going to go right down the line, and you should print out what you think the output will be. Okay, I guess we'll see you tomorrow, and have a good night. Cheers.